The quietest people online aren't struggling. They figured something out that most of us haven't admitted yet. You know someone like this. Maybe you are someone like this. They're on the apps. They see everything. They just don't perform. And for a long time, the world assumed that meant something was wrong with them. It doesn't. Picture this. A group of friends at dinner. Phones out. Someone's filming the food before it's touched. Someone's already typing the caption. There's an unspoken competition for the best angle, the wittiest take, the fastest post. And then there's one person at that table who just eats. No phone, no performance. They're fully present. They laugh at the jokes. They remember what people said. They leave knowing things about the people there that no one else caught because they were actually watching. You might assume they're shy, or antisocial, or secretly judging everyone. But what if the real question isn't why they don't post? What if it's what they're protecting? The person not performing is often the one paying the most attention. There's a concept in psychology called self-concealment, and it doesn't mean what it sounds like. Self-concealment isn't hiding because you're ashamed. It's the deliberate choice to keep certain parts of yourself private, to hold some things close, not out of fear, but out of intentionality. Researchers at the University of Michigan found that the drive to share isn't neutral. Disclosure activates the same reward pathways as food and money, which means the urge to post isn't really about connection. It's closer to a craving. And here's what that means for the person who doesn't post. They're not numb to that pull. They feel it. But somewhere, consciously or not, they made a decision that the momentary high of validation wasn't worth what it cost them. What does it cost? Think about the last time you posted something personal. That 3-second pause before you hit share, the low-level anxiety while you waited for a response, the quiet sting if fewer people cared than you expected. The non-poster knows that cycle well. They just opted out of it. Not every urge needs an audience. But let's be honest about something. Because if we're not careful, this whole conversation starts to sound like a flattering story people who don't post tell themselves. Let's voice the other side. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the person not posting is avoiding. They're not present at that dinner table. They're disassociated from it. They don't share because they're afraid of being seen, because vulnerability feels dangerous, because building a digital presence requires a kind of confidence they haven't accessed yet. Social media, for all its dysfunction, forces people to take up space, to say, I exist, I have thoughts, I was here. Some people genuinely need that practice, and the quiet observer narrative can become its own trap, a way of feeling superior to a process you're actually frightened of. So which is it? Healthy boundary or sophisticated avoidance? Here's the honest answer. It's both, for different people, sometimes for the same person in the same week. But there is a real distinction between the two. And most people who live it quietly, they already know which side they're on. Stop. Because the framing we've been using, the idea that not posting is either noble or avoidant, is still the wrong frame. It's still asking the question from the outside. Here's the shift. Silence online isn't emptiness. It's often the loudest form of self-respect. The people who've genuinely made peace with not posting have figured out something most of the internet is still working toward, that their experience doesn't require external confirmation to be real. They're not performing their life for an audience, they're just living it. That's not a small thing. That's actually the thing almost every productivity book, philosophy course, and meditation app is trying to get you to. And they arrived there quietly, without announcing it. Here's the part nobody says out loud. Social media, at its core, is a legibility machine. It takes the full complexity of a human life and compresses it into something readable, something others can scan, evaluate, and respond to in 3 seconds. And most of us have accepted that compression as the price of connection. But some people haven't. Not because they're anti-technology, not because they think they're better than you, but because something in them resists being made legible on someone else's terms. There's a line of modern philosophy that describes our culture as a transparency society, a world that treats visibility as virtue, where showing yourself is proof of nothing to hide, where privacy starts to look suspicious. Not everyone who hides is hiding something. Some people are just keeping something. The non-poster is pushing back on that pressure, maybe not even consciously. They're saying, my interior life is mine. You don't get a highlight reel, and there is no highlight reel. What you see is what there is. Living without performing it, that might be the bravest thing you can do online. I want to ask you something specific, and I mean genuinely specific. Think about the last thing you almost posted, but didn't. Not something you decided was boring, something that mattered to you. What stopped you? Was it protecting something real, or was it fear wearing the costume of self-preservation? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone. Because the answer to that question is the whole story. The non-poster, at their best, is someone who knows the difference. They've felt both impulses, the genuine desire for privacy and the avoidance dressed up as philosophy, and they can tell them apart. That distinction isn't automatic. It's something you earn through honesty with yourself. Most people never stop long enough to ask. Here's what I actually believe. The problem was never people who post too much or people who post nothing. The problem is a culture that confused visibility with value and then asked all of us to prove our worth by how legible we made ourselves to strangers. The person who quietly opted out of that bargain isn't antisocial. They're telling you something. Silence online isn't emptiness. It's often the loudest form of self-respect. Your experience doesn't need to be witnessed to be real. Your life doesn't require an audience to matter. If this landed for you or challenged you, subscribe. I make videos about the psychology of how people actually behave, not how we pretend to.